How you doing, everybody? We want to welcome you all to another episode of the Counterpoise podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Everett Stevenson, joined along with my other co-hosts.
Hello, everybody. My name is Malik Foster, co-host for the Counterpoise podcast.
Hey, everybody, and I'm your third co-host. My name is Samantha Adams. Today we have a really good topic. All right, we say that every single week, but the truth of the matter is every single one of them are good. And so this week we're going to be talking about the statistics that were presented about Black fathers and how it relates to Black fathers being present in their children's lives and how it relates to the Black sperm donor shortage. So we're going to get into that. We're going to go ahead and compare and contrast a couple of things there. But let me just give a little bit of background. So this past week, two things came out. First thing that came out was an article about Black male sperm donors and how there's a shortage of sperm donation amongst Black men. So Black men are like, I guess, a hot commodity in the sperm donor world, not necessarily just because of the fact that, you know, we can get into the whole racial aspect of it and how there's a lot of white people that want Black babies or biracial babies just for clout. But that's not really what we're here to talk about today. It's more so to talk about how, you know, Black women want to have Black babies, right? And for whatever reason, they go to a donor bank, right? It may be, maybe they're homosexual women, right, and want to have children. Maybe they have medical issues. You know, we're going to dive into it. Like, there's a lot of, maybe they want to choose a career or for most of their life. So there's a lot of different reasons. We're going to dig a little deeper into all of that. But pretty much there's a shortage. And so we're going to talk about all the reasons why. But also, too, on the flip side to that, there was another statistic that came out. I think it was the CDC who did the polling, and it came back saying that 70% of Black men are present for their children. Changing diapers, taking them to school, feeding them, doing all of the things that a parent's supposed to do. And Black men, normally when you see positive statistics, you often see Black people just at the bottom. You see what I'm saying? But this is one that we're proud of, right? Because the narrative always gets pushed that Black men are not present for their children. And Black men are here today to say, no, that's not the truth. That's not the case. You see what I'm saying? And we wanted to go ahead and make sure we, number one, highlighted it, and we're going to talk about that as it relates to the sperm donation thing too. So you guys want to add anything?
Yeah, as far as background, let me add on a little bit to what my co-host was saying, Sam. So there's been a shortage amongst Black sperm donors because there's been an increase in Black women really since 2020 over the pandemic, COVID time. A lot more women have been opting to try to, you know, get fertility treatments, get sperm donors so they can have Black babies. Like my co-host was saying, some women are homosexual, so they're in a relationship with other women, or some women are at a certain age, like that 30, 45 is like that between the average range that are trying to request some of these samples, these vials, right? So the issue is that before there was never a need to have Black donors like that, but now the need has grown. So basically 1 out of 5 patients or clients want Black sperm, and those tend to be Black women. So 1 out of every 5 of their clients are women that want this Black sperm. So that's one of the issues that are rising, and the issue is the Black sperm, when it is available, it's going off the shelves very quickly. So that's one of the issues. Like within minutes, as soon as it's put there and available, like if you go on the website of some of these chiropractors in the country and try to order a Black sperm sample, it's gone. If you don't just go and order it as soon as it pops up. The article had women waiting hours, like spending 40 hours a week trying to get a Black sperm donor. Some people have to go to different websites, illicit websites that aren't regulated by the federal government to get sperm. So these women are desperate because they have a choice to make, right? They either have a biracial baby or they have to go another route, like maybe not have a baby at all, have a biracial baby, or go to some unregulated websites where there could be some legal trouble that arises because they're not following the proper procedures and protocols, or maybe you can try to run the risk of asking a friend. But these Cairo banks screen these men. To give you guys some further background, so they check their family and medical history, making sure there's not certain defects that would prevent a successful birth. So they do that. So that's one of the reasons, as well as protecting people and a legal perspective from like custody battles and stuff like that. So that's some of the issues that can arise when you try to go off the government regulated websites. E, do you want to add any background or anything? Or we can move on to the next segment.
Yeah, no, I'm willing to just go to the next top or just some of the main topics that we discussed earlier.
Okay.
And in particular, I think one of the things that I wanted to address was, well, starting with, I guess, so we could start with the shortage of sperm donors. And I think you guys may have mentioned it, but there's generally around 4 sites that have like approved donors that have to actually screen them to make sure that they're individuals who may not have any risk of, like you say, mental imbalance or have any criminal records or things of those natures. I'm not necessarily sure exactly what the process, if that means that they can go, or the donors can go to other locations and have their donations sent to those locations, or do you have to travel to those locations to provide that donation? That's something I think we definitely have to look into a little bit more to see if that could also be a cause, just simply because there's not individuals that's located in those places, or if there's not other locations that are willing to send their donations to that particular site. But I also think one of the issues that we look at, and we kind of talked about this a little bit prior to, is looking at the issue of why there is, if you will, a shortage per se. And I think one of the things that we see is that people have noticed is that the more educated a person is, the less likely they are to have a lot of children or to have multiple children. It's not to say that they won't have a child, but it's also to say that they may either prolong having children until they finish getting themselves, the degree or whatever that they're looking for, and then maybe a little bit later, after they get to working or trying to get themselves established in the field of choice, then they may look to have that child, or we may run into the issue of the individuals just deciding that economically that's just something that they can't afford, simply because they understand all of the things that may go into having a certain quality of life that they may be looking for. And I think that's a strong factor, because when you look at that, a lot of times people kind of have an idea of when they may want to have a child. Is for some, like myself at least, they wanted to be a little bit more established within their life prior to doing that. They wanted to be able to have an understanding as to, how they will be able to provide for that child prior to doing so. And And a lot of times, as we see, that comes at a little later date. We noticing that that's not only something that happens within child rearing, but that's also something that happens also within home buying. That's something that also happens sometimes with people purchasing major cars or other major items that generally we've seen in society. People have done at a lot earlier age in past times. So that's one factor. I know there's many more, but I wanted to let you guys get in there and get some more topics and reasons as to why you guys think that there might be a shortage before I continue going on.
Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to talk about, first I want to just clarify something that you said, about the 4 sites. So just be clear, there are 4 federally approved donation sites in the country, like not in a state, in a city, in the country. So I think what happens is a lot of these, they probably have satellite locations, you know what I'm saying? And then they probably, ice ship the specimens off to these donation centers, and then that way they get redistributed, considering the fact that there's only 4 of them. I'm pretty sure that that's probably how it works, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not certain, so don't quote me on it. So I just wanted to go ahead and clarify that. Another thing is when you start talking about the relationship of Black people with medical personnel and medical staff, I'm not talking about, somebody who chooses to go be a CNA or a registered nurse or a doctor or anybody that works in the medical field. I'm just talking about the relationship between Black people and medical personnel, specifically doctors, right? There's not a good history there. The hospitals to Black women, hospitals and doctors to Black women are like the police to Black men, okay? And so what happens is a lot of times with Black women, we go into hospitals, all that stuff, they don't listen to us. I think we have a higher pain tolerance. The child mortality rate is really high. The birth mortality rate is really high amongst Black women. There's a whole lot of stuff going on there. But when you talk about Black men specifically, Black men don't trust doctors either. That's why Black women, because Black women, just the makeup of our body, we have to go to the doctor more often, right? And we're constantly saying, hey, Black man, go get seen, go get checked out, go, make sure you're good. But at the end of the day, neither one of us have a good relationship with doctors and hospitals and stuff, right? Just because of the history that has been there throughout the course of the years about how we've been treated as if we're guinea pigs, right? Look at the Tuskegee experiment, right? Being lied to and treat. Even now, even today, right? You have Black boys who are in school, and even if they're just a little hyper, these schools act like they can't handle them, and they're trying to push parents to medicate their children. You see what I'm saying? Especially Black boys. And I think that it feeds into that school to prison pipeline, but that's another conversation for another day. But I do think that it's important to recognize that our relationship with medical staff is just not good. Like, it's just not good. They haven't done anything to make us feel more comfortable. Things continue. The stats are the same, like things like that. So it's gonna be commonplace for Black men to not be trustworthy of medical personnel. As it relates to, especially you giving your kids away. You see what I'm saying? You giving away your seed. You don't know where that's going. I think that it's important to recognize that. Another thing is then too, Black men, like I said before, as it relates to the stats, if you have more Black men wanting to take care of their children and be in the lives of their children, right? They're not going to be pressed to go father children with people that they don't know and will never see, right? Like, because I think that's an important aspect of it. You got to remember that you won't see these kids. So, if you're already in a space where you are looking to be responsible, be in that child's life, be there for that kid, you're not going to really be, especially if you already have a kid, right? Because then you know what that relationship is like. You know what it's like to love on your baby. And the last thing you want to do is go have babies with someone that you didn't even participate in. You know, I mean, you did when you donated, but you're not participating in the act of making that baby actively. And so I think that also too plays a role, right? There's a lot of suspiciousness, there's a lot of unsureness, and there's a whole lot of things that relate to not wanting to just donate your sperm. And so that's another thing. Another thing is infertility, right? A lot of times when we talk about infertility, we talk about the infertility of the woman, but that doesn't mean men aren't infertile too. I don't know what the stats are on Black male infertility. I have no idea, but I know it's a thing, right? I know that there are Black men that can't have children. And so that also, I'm sure, plays a part in why, you know, why that donation is down, you know? And so I just wanted to go ahead and throw those things in there. And I'm gonna let y'all go ahead and say what you gotta say, comment about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the main reasons is image, right? Black men are trying to change their image because one of the reasons one of the ladies that worked for one of the Cairo banks was saying that Black men, obviously, they don't trust the medical industry, like you said earlier, Sam, and also they're trying to change their image. Like they don't want to be known as deadbeat fathers, absentee fathers, because we know it's well known that it's been drilled into Black men's psyche that they're no good when it comes to parenting. Also that, you know, they're absentee fathers, you know, they don't like to take care of their children. So they're trying to change that. Hence, you're seeing that increase of that percentage of Black men taking care of fathers, or they're taking care of their, I mean, excuse me, not fathers, they're taking care of their children at a higher rate, right? So Black men don't want to be known to be absentee fathers. So now it's very interesting because we've been drilled, Black men have been drilled into their psyche that, oh, you know, you're absentee father, you're not a good father, you're not around, you're absent. And now it's like they want you to actually do that, right? They want you to donate your sperm and not be around. So it's like very, very weird for that to happen. And I think it's not a bad thing, you know, in my opinion, it's not a bad thing that Black men are turning this down, because it's like, you know, they don't have to donate their sperm. If they want to create a family the traditional way, it's their right, right? If they want to be present in the home, that's their right. Just like a lot of these women, outside of medical reasons, they are choosing to have babies without a man around. Like they're literally choosing that. So hence we're seeing that more women are waiting till they're older to want to have babies. And this is one of the consequences that I think a lot of women aren't told, right? Like they're always told, like, yeah, you can freeze your eggs. All you have to do is have the money. All you have to do is have the money. You can always get a baby later. You could go to a sperm bank, but they're not realizing later on the consequence. You might not get what you want. And there's a very low percentage chance of you getting what you want. And what most of these Black women want are Black babies. They don't want biracial babies. They want Black babies. So that's what's increasing the high demand for the Black sperm, because these Black women want specifically Black babies. You know, they'll settle for biracial if they have to and they really want kids, but what they want is what they can't get, which is the Black sperm. So that's one of the things that I noticed. I don't know if you had any additional thoughts.
I did honestly go on a topic, and it's so funny because I was listening to you guys go, and I think I may have lost track on one of them, but to the point that you're making is, and it's kind of interesting that you say that, because we've kind of seen currently that there's been a influx in conversation and like divesting, if you will, from the community and people having, you know, biracial babies in the sense of, you know, them wanting to look to have, you know, children that are considered to be light skinned, if you will. So we've seen that on both the male side and on the female side, primarily within the community as well. So I do think that that is one factor, but I believe that there's an overwhelming sense that majority of people will prefer to have, you know, a Black child, especially if they're growing up, you know, Black. I think with some of the things that we also have to look at too within that is, you know, and we mentioned it, you know, within age and again, infertility, which would prevent people who actually may be in a heterosexual relationship, but not able to conceive, have reasons to go to a sperm donor, maybe if there may be issues with the male sperm and that's preventing them from conceiving. But I think also when we look at this, one of the things that kept coming to my mind was a clip that we saw back when they used I think it was like some European a doctor and I think like a billionaire who was speaking to a group of women, and they kind of reference how they would like to like study their eggs or use their eggs. And that kind of threw the women off for a little bit because it was like, oh, well, why do you want, you know what I'm saying, our eggs? Why do you want to look at, you know, our specimens? And it was just like, oh, well, we think it's like, you know, the prototype of, you know, Mother Earth, if you will. It's just like, you know, the ideal prototype that we would like to look at, you know, it's just so beautiful, this, that, and the third. And it kind of puts me in reference to that when we talk about, you know, men providing their sperm, because essentially it is, you know, one of their reproductive organs, excuse me, not necessarily organ, but a reproductive factor that can allow for that. And then, you know, like you said, you don't necessarily know exactly what's going on. Are they mutating that? Are they, you know what I'm saying, able to, you know, nowadays we're looking at, you know, with GMO and things of that nature, where they're able to input certain characteristics within the sperm, so they maybe can make the child have a certain eye color, or they maybe can make the child have maybe a certain hair color, or they can adjust certain things. So we don't know necessarily what that study may bring about, or what, you know, people may be doing with those samples. So that definitely makes it. But I also think too, to the point that we were making as well, with, you know, as far as being Black fathers being present, is the element that a lot of guys would like to, and when I mean guys, I'm referencing the men who want to have children, as well as men who want to be active in their children's lives. They want to, you know, be able to have time to be there, to be at the baseball games, to coach, you know, to be a dad that's in the crowd, you know what I'm saying, screaming along, helping out, to assist in, you know, school, what is those things, activities, or whenever you have the field trips and you have parent volunteers, just as much as being in the PTAs, as well as all other events that come in with dealing with child rearing, whether it's doctor's appointments or whatever. There are a lot of men who would like to be present in all of those aspects when it comes to raising their child, because they want their child to do that. And I think one of the things that we might have to also look at in an emergence of the re-imaging, if you will, of the present Black father, is the fact that there are a lot of fathers who are first time, I don't want to say first time fathers, but they're
first generation. I think that's what you're trying to say. Like,
yeah, if you will,
have
like
a father figure, and then they're choosing. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, correct. They're choosing to try to be the example that they did not have. And so what you're seeing a lot of times with some people are they might not necessarily have the right wording. They may not necessarily have had the right example set for them. But what they're trying to do is provide in a different way, provide something new. And, it's a kudos to those guys as well, because, you're setting a new foundation. And we talk a lot about, generational wealth, but we also need to talk about, generational parenting and how the child rearing and having examples being set on, again, not only just how to love the mother, not only just how to love themselves, not only just examples of how they can, be a father, but also make time for themselves, make time for their children, show their children that this is what a man does as far as providing, protecting, things that you see in a traditional standpoint, but also being nurturing, something that's not normally traditionally associated with the man, and showing how a father does love and how he may take his time in showing, compassion and empathy for the children at times and when they are, being either disruptive or other things. So I think the image of the Black father has definitely changed because of some of those factors. But I think also, when we look at the shortages of, the sperm donor, I think it goes with one point that you were making earlier, Sam, just guys not really trusting the medical system at most. But I think another one that we haven't touched on, and I would love to get you guys' input on it also, is the dysfunction within the Black community in itself. I think that raises an issue where we have to look at, because now we have either some individuals who are having children with guys who aren't present or who don't choose to be present within their lives. And these individuals are somehow able to, impregnate multiple women. And then you also have the story where there are some guys, which, we're seeing a lot of an emergency in this too, is there's some guys who are choosing to not have children with women because they feel like they're not getting the things that they would like to have out of the relationship, whether that is a cooperative companion, whether it be, someone that has like-minded ideas and thoughts, whatever it may be. There seems to be a disconnect within that. And there's a lot of men who are choosing to say, you know what, I might hold off on having children right now because I'm not able to find the type of woman that I would like to find to build my house and my family with.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting perspective, E. You kind of have to talk about the structure of the Black family based on our community issues, right? And the reason why we have to is because when you look at, we've had several conversations, discussions, podcasts, and everything about the dynamic of the Black family, and things of that nature. But as it relates to this topic right here, they're looking for people who have, I don't want to call us broken, because I think that that's foolish, right? Because we're not broken. We wouldn't have made it this far if we were broken, but definitely traumatized. You're looking for traumatized people to participate in a system that's never been good to them. You know what I'm saying? Like when you talk about, like I was saying before, like the relationship that women have with hospitals, men kind of have a similar thing, because look, like the Tuskegee experiment was definitely a good example about how Black folks, whenever we turn to a particular space, when you talk about medical personnel, things like that, things have happened. So it's not like this paranoia, quote unquote, comes from a place of nowhere. It comes from a place of harm. Like, if the stove is on and you touch it and you get burned, going forward, I can't touch that stove, or I need to be careful to not touch that stove because it's hot. I don't want to get burned again. And so, a lot of things that take place within our community come from a place of legitimate trauma. And so when I think about what you're saying, right, I think about a lot of the problems that we have with each other, right? A lot of Black folks, right? People, Black men and Black women, would rather have children the traditional way. You know what I'm saying? We just would. And then because even though we have our own infighting and things like that, we trust each other more than we trust anybody else. We'll go to Black businesses, even though sometimes Black businesses don't always, do right by us. We'll go to Black doctors, Black lawyers, Black whatever. If it's Black, we're gonna go to it. We don't necessarily pour into it the way that other communities pour into their own stuff. But a lot of that comes from trauma. And a lot of that comes from our lack of understanding about how things actually work. And so I think a lot of that has to change, right? And I honestly, Malik, I agree with you. If somebody don't want to give away their sperm, they don't freaking have to. And I mean, I get it, because one thing that I didn't get too heavy into was the fertility of Black women. Like there's a lot of Black women that have fertility issues, not all of them, but there's definitely a number of Black women that have fertility issues, and those fertility issues get cleared out when they get older. And so they want to, but if they haven't, if they don't have a relationship with somebody, if they're not in a committed relationship, if they're not married, but that biological clock is ticking, they're going to do what they got to do to have a baby. And if they prefer to have that baby by a Black man, of course, they're going to do what they got to do to try to make that happen. You see what I'm saying? So I definitely think that plays a huge role. Another thing that we touched on was homosexuality. If you have a lesbian woman that wants to have a baby, she can go about it a couple ways. She can go get a sperm donor, or she can go get a sperm donor. And you got two different types of sperm donors. You got the ones at the bank, and you got your homie, right? And either one, if you're not going through the proper channels when you're going through an actual sperm bank and going through some of the regulated ones, you could open yourself up to lawsuit, which is what Malik was talking about. Same thing as if you go holler at the homie like, yo, I'm trying to have a baby, what's up? What happens if he's like, okay, I want to be in that baby's life, and you don't want that? You want it to be you and your girl, or you and your wife, or whatever. Sorry, my dog wants my attention. And so with that being said, I think it's important to recognize that, that also is an issue. One of the other things is age. So the thing about age, I just touched on a little bit as it relates to fertility issues. Sometimes it's not being, and this ties into what you were talking about, E, not finding a suitable spouse, right? Because a lot of people don't really want to have kids outside of wedlock. You know what I'm saying? And so if you do choose to do that, then that's your lane. That's your story. That's your journey. Ain't nobody knocking you. But if people are waiting for marriage and then their clock is ticking, and so it's like, all right, now it's time, right? I felt like before it was like far out. Now I'm like looking at that clock like, yo, I don't got no whole lot of time like that, because as women, we have a limited amount of time to have children. And although science has allowed for that time to be extended, it's still not forever like it is for a man. And so, whether it be the career that got in the way, whether it just be because you couldn't find a suitable spouse, or you were in a relationship with somebody that you probably should have ended that relationship with a long time ago, and that's why you didn't have any kids with them. There's so many different scenarios, situations, and reasons why people wait to have children. Maybe they want to wait also because, they don't have the money, or they want to make sure they're in a better financial position before they start popping out children. I think it's important to recognize that all of these factors play a really important role when you're talking about having children and sperm donation. I think the only way you're really going to be able to is just going to jump right into some solutions, right? The only way we're really ever going to be able to have that type of, you see Black men giving, donating their sperm. There's a couple things. For one thing we didn't touch on is that Black men are not paid at the same rate for their sperm, despite the fact that their sperm is more sought after. They're paid at a lower rate. That's a problem. If what I got is hot and you are gonna pay me less for it, what am I do it for? You see what I'm saying? That doesn't even make sense. So I do think that that's also another thing. Like, I think that people have to really recognize that you gotta recognize your value. You see what I'm saying? And if Black men are opting to not give their sperm, it's because they recognize their value. They want to be selective and have a choice as to where their children and their seed are. You know what I'm saying? And I don't necessarily see anything wrong with that, but and if it's going to happen, there has to be a mending of the relationship between the medical field and Black people. Like, there has to be.
Well, Sam, another thing that they could do is change the requirements at the regulated sperm banks, because they are strict in terms of knowing your family history, at least up to your grandparents, that level of history, their medical history. Also, another requirement, the criminal aspect. So if you've been convicted of any crimes, you can't donate, and also homosexuals, right? So that eliminates a little small percentage as well.
Yeah, and I think
well, it's not really homosexual if you're homosexual or not. It's really if you've had sex with the same sex within the past 5 years. That's really what it is.
That's still kind of discriminatory.
It's very similar, but yeah, it was a federal mandate long ago. It hasn't changed. So that's just the rules, right? The rules are the rules. So maybe if they change some of those rules, that could help get more donors. But at the end of the day, I think Black women in particular are going to have to come to the realization that Black men are actually more conservative than they may actually think, and a lot of people think, and they may want to actually be around their families and not just off just having kids they don't know about anywhere, contrary to popular belief, right? That's what Black men like to do. Maybe that's a small segment, but the men that actually qualify and meet the criteria for the Chiral banks that are turning them down willingly, they would be classified as good, decent men that are trying to take care of their families. So you can't
try. I mean, not necessarily 100% true, right, Malik? Because if the criteria is limiting homosexual men who are definitely capable of being good fathers, and men who have been convicted of crimes, whether it be a misdemeanor or felony, they also have the full capability of being able to be good fathers. And I think that, stigmatizing people just because of choices or lifestyle, unless it's like something that's harmful to themselves or baby, then, I think, but they'll do that. But somebody who might have severe mental health issues and their family has a history of mental health issues, they may let them go. You see what I'm saying? Like, and so I think it's time to be honest and stop trying to stigmatize Black men. Like, if 80% of jails are filled up with Black men, how are you going to get more sperm donors if you keep arresting Black men?
Well, so that is one of the things, like changing the rules would help, but also, I think Black women will need to make a choice, because I don't think it's going to increase anytime soon. I don't think Black men are going to change, right? They're trying to change. If they're trying to change their image, it doesn't make sense for them to do a 180 and actually change by donating more, right? For the people that actually,
they gotta have a reason.
Yeah,
and like if
you're trying to change your image from being that absentee father,
exactly,
it doesn't make any sense in your mind to actually let me donate sperm and actually, give life to that that stigma. So
right, because let's say you have a single man, right, and he meets a single woman. And as far as he knows, he don't have no kids, but he knows back about a couple of years ago when he was in college, money was tight. You know what I'm saying? He went and donated some sperm. And she's like, do you have any kids? I don't think I do. people are gonna look at you a little way. Like, what you mean you don't think? Like, all right, you get it. There are women out there that be on one, like they won't tell them that they had a whole kid or, whatever the circumstance is. But imagine that's a wild conversation to have, and just expect somebody to be like, oh, okay. You see what I'm saying? Because women are so picky. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Oh, well, back when I was in college, I donated my sperm a couple times. So, I don't think I have any kids running around. I just know I ain't responsible for none. That sounds crazy.
Right.
Sounds kind of crazy. You
It
know what I'm
does.
saying?
And lastly, I was just going to say, I think my solution is this. Lastly, in closing, I think the best option for women, especially if you're not homosexual and you're a single straight woman, I think your best heterosexual woman, I think your best option is to just try to work it out with a man, because the other options are way more expensive, and it's a slim chance that you'll get what you want, which is a non-biracial black baby, right? If you want a biracial baby, yeah, there's plenty of options for you. But currently, those IVF treatments, those other treatments you have to get are very costly and expensive. And then they're not guaranteed to work. So it just goes to show that, working with a man is still the best option for women today, contrary to popular belief. I know it's like a lot of people preach like you don't need a man, you can have babies without a man, you can get everything you want without a man, but it's coming to show like, hey, what you want, a man still has. So I think there's some value in that. I know there's always exception to the rule and some outliers, but based off of what these women saying that they want is a fully black baby, you need a black man for that and not biracial. So that's what I'm basing my opinion off of right here. If you guys got any closing statements, Sam?
I'm good. I just didn't know if E wanted to give what his solutions were.
Yeah, no, I got you. So within closing, for me personally, I think there's a couple things that I ultimately think we need to work on. One, I think we need to, again, I made mention to it earlier. I just think that we need to work on the relationship in general. I need us to be able to, want to be able to come together a little bit more, so that we don't have so many women that's later on in life who are looking to, procreate, and they don't have maybe an actual spouse and or donors to provide them with the fertilization, if you will, that they need. I think that's kind of like something that we can address. And again, I think that comes with us all working together to get on one page in general. I think another thing is, because I don't necessarily know if we're going to get, as a guy, I don't know if we're going to get more guys willing to say that we're willing to just go ahead and donate more sperm. Like, that doesn't seem like that's going to be the answer that guys are going to come up with. I do know that times are getting tough and inflation steadily keeps rising. So, if it becomes more of a lucrative type of situation, it could be in play, but at the current moment, it's just not something that I see going down. So I don't necessarily know if we're going to be able to get more donations. Again, it could happen with some of the younger guys, gentlemen who maybe, in that space, like we talked about, where, donating plasma or something like that is an option. Those guys may be more willing to do so. I think we have a pretty much a good hold on, the Black fathers and Black fathers being active. I know just from the microscopic view of my life, most of the, pretty much all of the guys, that I know that are fathers, are active in their children's lives, love being fathers, love being, love taking care of their children and things of that nature, love being able to show where, how their kids are growing and the things that they're into. So fatherhood is definitely something that I think a lot of men in our community do take pride in doing and providing. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and move us into our book of the month, which again is Between the World and Me, which is kind of a fitting subject because this is a book from a father writing to his son, talking about lessons that he's learned throughout life and experiences that he's had to kind of guide him. I think one of the things that, which is kind of like my quote of the week, which comes from Edith Killens, who would always say, you know, I'm trying to bestow onto you the knowledge that I have at, you know, I believe she was 30 some odd years older than me, 31, 36 years older than me, and said, so that you can have at your age, you know, additional 36 years of wisdom. And I think if we can learn to use that within our lives, to look at everyone as someone that you can learn from, it would help us to be able to maneuver life a little bit easier. One of the things that I think that comes with this understanding, especially when we're younger, understanding that the wisdom that someone else is giving us may be for our maybe for our advantage, and that if we can learn to, you know, chew the meat and spit out the bone, we, in a sense, we will be able to take in what's good for us and digest that, and then we can leave out what may not be fitting. You know what I'm saying? If it sticks, you know what I'm saying, you let it go. If it doesn't, just let it fly by. And so that's our quote of the week as well. And then our business of the month is the Hungry Black Man, who is an Instagram group as well as a website that also promotes different eateries and restaurants around the nation that are Black owned or either have Black food is Black cuisine. So those are two things that I think that that's another business that I definitely wanted to promote. So with that being said, I just wanted to let you guys know that you can come and find us every Wednesday on Instagram Live. We'll be doing our weekly, What's Up Wednesday, where we try to do a midweek check-in with everyone. And that's on Instagram Live. You also can catch our episodes posted every Saturday, every weekend on YouTube, under Counter Poise Podcast website, page, Instagram page, YouTube page, where, you know, we post all of our episodes like this one that you're watching. Our Instagram and hold handles will be posted here at the end of this post. But if anybody else have anything else that y'all want to promote and say, please be sure to like, follow, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend, you know what I'm saying, to get on. Feel free to send us any content that you guys would like us to continue to talk about, anything that you know see that's going on in the world that you think is something that would be interesting. I appreciate everybody who do send in things. I appreciate everybody who also, when we go live on Wednesday, I want to say too, you guys can feel free. We'll, you know, if you comment a couple times, we'll send that invite to see if you want to come up and join the actual show. So we're always looking for, you know, guest appearances, and we appreciate anytime anyone's willing to come in and share their opinion and give their thoughts on some of the, you know, topics that we have. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm going to open it up to my co-hosts if they have anything else that they want to add.
All I want to say is y'all make sure y'all be good to each other. Otherwise,
also follow Sam on tag. You know what I'm saying? Get at her. She on tag as well. She go live with us.
Yeah. What's your handle on there, Sam?
Sam with 2 M's. I Yam, YAMM. So it's SAMMIYAMM.
Okay, yeah, y'all be sure to follow her on Sam on tag. She has good things that she discussed on there. Thank you guys for coming through. You can catch us again on Wednesday on What's Up Wednesday, 8:30. We go live on Instagram, so you can check us out there. And always you can send us a message if you want us to talk about different topics. So thank you guys for tuning in. And people who catch us on Instagram, we'll see you there.
Oh, don't forget about Facebook too. We on there.
Oh yeah, Facebook too. It's all Counter Poise Podcast. So
all of it.
And then our socials will be on our ad credits. So you guys, peace.
Peace out.